All right, good evening, everyone. Glad to see all of you here. And I've got Michelle Latham with me, and we're going to talk about the WEF hub here, down in Cape Girardeau. So get ready for another rock and roll edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. This is going to be the third week in a row where the guests, you can just feel it, right? The guests are going to be awesome. This guest is going to be great. The last 2 weeks have been outstanding. I'm ready, and I hope you all are too, because there's going to be a great discussion. So anyway, let me start El Recordingo, and then we will launch off.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of Liberty and Freedom Lovers United in a podcast called the Missouri Liberty Report. And I'm super excited for our guest, and I can't wait to see all the questions in the chatter and the live stream here in just a minute. But first of all, before I start, I want to mention one thing. A friend of my son's told me that at the local gym here, I think it's Fitness Parlor, that my live stream has been up on one or a couple of the televisions in there, and that people have been watching. So if the gentleman, I know his first name's Ryan, I don't know his last name. If he's watching this or he hears this, I just want to say thank you, because that's really awesome, and that means a lot to me. That helps me grow. And so if you're looking for a gym membership, I'm just going to go ahead and say maybe you need to check out Fitness Parlor. I believe it's a 24-hour-a-day gym, so that's amazing. To see that the show is reaching a bigger and bigger audience. And again, I have to say thank you to those people who either have stuck with me or given me a shot or leading me to these guests. You know, my wife first and foremost, because, this is the second foray I've done into podcasting. Sam and Trish for giving me my Sam and Trish Britton from MOLibertyRadio.us for giving me my first spot. And of course, Tom Martz, who linked me up with tonight's guest, Michelle Latham. Patrick Holland, who got me Bill Eigel and then Charles Lewis last week. And he's brought all of you with him, and that's amazing. So, again, quick thank yous to everybody before I start. But let's bring up Michelle. Michelle, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing well, John. How are you?
Well, I'm living a dream or nightmare or whatever you would call it. So I guess just to start off, if you want to give everybody a little bit of your background, who you are, and then we'll just get into the meat of the issue here.
Okay. Well, I am currently residing in Cape Girardeau. I have an insurance agency in Cape, and I am currently married to Jason, and we've been married a little over 3 years. He is a retired Army veteran, and between us we have 4 children and 3 grandchildren. And Jason is working as a port engineer on the Mississippi River as well. And so we both have common interests in what's going on within our country and our world, and it keeps us very busy in politics. I ran as a write-in candidate for mayor of Cape Girardeau earlier this year, and that was only because I felt like I had to do that due to some things that were happening within our city, and no one seemed to care about it. So we are heavily involved in a local chapter of We the People in Cape Girardeau, and we do a lot of things associated with working to save our liberty and our freedom here in the country. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful that you asked me to come on and talk about the World Economic Forum being in Cape Girardeau.
You know, let me start off by saying, how do you say those three words together without puking? Because that's just vomit inducing when you hear anything about the World Economic Forum. Now, a lot of it gets hushed, and you don't hear about this stuff in the mainstream media. The big company, they don't want to talk about it. It's just like it doesn't exist, nothing to see here. But we hear things that Klaus Schwab and some of the others say. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That should pique everyone's interest to go. Excuse me, sir. What did you just say? But before we get into that, because um, okay, you'll know more about this than I do. Give us for those people who maybe aren't familiar with the WEF. Give us a little background on that group of evildoers, as I would call them. Give us a little background on them because I'm sure they have these fun little catchphrases that they things they're trying to do for the world, but we know what they're really trying to do. But can you give us a little backstory on the WEF and basically, and then we'll kind of work our way into their mission goals and all that a little later on.
Sure. So, well, the World Economic Forum was established in the early 1970s, and Klaus Schwab was the founder of World Economic Forum, although I do believe there were a couple of other bigger players that actually, just wanted to use him as the figurehead. Nonetheless, he is the name and the face of the World Economic Forum. And people like Al Gore, for instance, is on the board of directors. So you have very wealthy, elite people who make up the World Economic Forum. You have a lot of world leaders. Joe Biden, I'm not even going to call him my president, so I'm just going to say Joe Biden. You have Macron. You have Trudeau. A lot of the presidents and world leaders from all over the world are participants in this. And basically, it is founded to, as they would like to say, make our world a better place. So they know everything, we know nothing, and we're just going to be their slaves, and they're going to make this happen, and we're going to like it and not say anything about it. And they are impacting any and every aspect of our being, whether it is agriculture, whether it is business, whether it is banking. Every aspect of our existence is being impacted by the World Economic Forum through their policies that they're implementing, and it's a very covert and sneaky agenda. They are also infiltrating our young people's minds through what's called global shapers, which is what is now in Cape Girardeau. And we are the only city, by the way, in the state of Missouri that has the World Economic Forum in their city. And the global shapers is geared toward attracting 18 to 27-year-olds. So the way I see it and the way I look at it is, our schools are indoctrinating the kids through CRT. And then as they graduate, organizations like the Global Shapers are grabbing them from 18 to 27 to further indoctrinate them. So by the time they're 27 years old, they really have no clue as to how things really are working and happening in this world. So they are the powers that be, as far as the World Economic Forum, are working to penetrate and infiltrate every aspect of our lives and the younger generations as well. So that's kind of a brief synopsis.
Well, and here's the thing too. When you talk about the age group, I'm sure that the colleges or the universities are on board. I would imagine they are harvesting people in the universities and choosing them and of course, filling their minds with the propaganda, not only from the university but their own, to shape these people into their little puppets. But when you're talking about these global shapers, I would imagine that the agenda is to infiltrate city governments, and then county seats, and up into and then it's a state takeover in order to promote things like ESG scores and all this other stuff. But um, do, can you give us some more detail on this global shapers thing? Because the article that was sent to me, it said it is not connected to the city in any way. Mayor
Mhm.
Stacy Kender said, um,
Mhm.
but okay, maybe not right now. But who's to say another year or two? Because it's like everything else. It's like the Marxism and the communism and everything that's infiltrated since I can't even remember the guy. Khrushchev said, we're going to tear you apart from the inside, and communism's going to lead the way. It's been a slow drip. These
Yes.
hubs and these global shapers will be a slow drip. Are they patiently waiting for the right people to sit down as mayor and city aldermen so they can have meetings with them and introduce some of these things? Is that what they're doing, or do they go to like city council meetings and address the board and the public? I mean, how do they act within the city?
Well, that's just it. So, Mr. Gotham, who came to Cape Girardeau to set up the 481st hub for global shapers, actually has traveled the world, and he has set up other chapters. He mentored under Al Gore. Okay. This young man came to Cape Girardeau, and he met with our mayor, Stacey Kender, before this chapter was ever approved. So he met with her, former mayor Bob Fox. So Bob Fox was actually the mayor at the time when he first came and spoke to them, as well as the Southeast Missourian newspaper and Southeast Missouri State University. Okay, he went to all of them and asked for their backing, which they were all very happy to give. And so the former mayor, the current mayor, the newspaper, and the Southeast Missouri State University all backed him when he applied for this chapter. So, no, technically, the city council didn't sign on to this, but the mayor herself actually, she told me this herself, by the way. She put him in her car and took him around the city and showed him the most impoverished areas of Cape Girardeau, because that's what he wanted to see. And she indicated to me that he doesn't own a vehicle, right? So that kind of goes along with that World Economic Forum line of thinking. You will own nothing, you will be happy, sort of thing, right? And so, to your point, or to your question, he already does have a seat with them. He grabbed that seat as soon as he came into town, or not long after. So my fight in this, as soon as this was announced, which it was September 5th, I believe, is when it came out in the newspaper, I immediately reached out to then Mayor Stacey Kender, because she won the mayoral election in April of this year. And I reached out to her and I said, I'd really like to talk with you about this, because this is a very serious matter. And it just so happened that we were able to have a face-to-face the next evening. And I asked her, I said, do you know anything about the World Economic Forum? She said, a little bit. And I said, well, if you know anything at all about the World Economic Forum, you know that this is not an entity that we want in the city of Cape Girardeau. And it just went right over her head. She honestly had no idea why or what I was talking about. And I tried to tell her, a little bit about who they are and what they're doing all over the world, and asked her if she knew anything about Agenda 2030, Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset, any of that. And she was not familiar at all with any of it. And so, I offered up resources. I know she was offered resources from other folks as well. And for me, she absolutely was not interested at all. And so, they're here. They're here. And the thing is they're not here just to set up a Global Shapers, right? So they have already attracted some young folks from the university to become part of the Global Shapers Foundation. And so, as you stated, they are working to get people within the university to help them with this. And, my point to her is it's not going to stop at Global Shapers, because now we not only have the World Economic Forum in Cape Girardeau, but we also have the United Nations here through MRCTI, which is Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. So that's a whole other foreign entity that's in our city that I've been fighting against. As soon as I found out, I, went to the forefront of that and have been battling on that as well. So there's a bigger plan at play here, I do believe. And I know that we're a riverfront town and we have a lot to offer here, not to mention we're the home of Rush Limbaugh. But I think there's a bigger plan at play, because, they picked Cape Girardeau of all places. There's plenty of cities in the state of Missouri that they could have chosen, but they chose here. And some would say, well, it is the home of Rush Limbaugh, and that's why they chose it. Well, maybe that's a small part of it. But I'm sure that they have bigger plans than just getting the last laugh. And, there's Kansas City, there's St. Louis, Columbia, some of the more liberal areas. Some would say, well, they already have those. They don't need to infiltrate those. Well, then why are they in Atlanta, or why are they in Nashville? So that doesn't hold water with me. So that's kind of where we're at this point. Just trying to push back as much as possible to let the city know, look, it doesn't need to go any farther. If they're wanting anything else, if they want one more inch in the door, I want you to be educated about who they are and what their agenda is, and I want you to be ready to push back on that. And unfortunately, John, there are a lot of people who are really ignorant about the World Economic Forum and their agenda. And their agenda is put out there on their website. It's very plainly spoken, although they do use some very flowery language. They do put it out there. It's not like they're hiding it. And so overcoming the ignorance of the subject is really what I'm pushing for, and just educating as many people as I can within the agricultural community, especially given what's going on in Sri Lanka and Holland, and now Germany is starting to fight some of that as well. And so I think I may have went a little bit further in talking about that than you may have wanted me to, but that's kind of the gist of what's going on right now. So.
No, that's fine. Lay it out on the table, and that way everybody knows. I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark here, but I would say that the mayor, the previous one, when who was in office when this gentleman first showed up, and now this gal you got as mayor, I would almost imagine. Now they're not going to tell anybody, but I would say they've been promised some funding for something that they want to get done in the city, as long as no one interrupts them and they don't get kicked out, or they are, we're no longer recognizing you as a, an actual relevant group or whatever. They've probably been promised some funding because, I mean, let's face it, you've got the world's richest elites at the head of the table. I'm sure money is going to be in play here to get these cities to play ball, especially if they're taking if she's taking this gentleman to the poorest areas. This is where he's going to focus his agendas, I'm assuming, as to probably I would say smear like things like look at capitalism, look what it's done to you, all these things. He's going to lay out, like, as you said, the flowery language on the most impoverished areas to push a more socialistic thing, probably at some point promising these people things so they'll go along. And then, of course, you get university students who have had their heads spilled with complete and utter nonsense are going to be all on board because they're going to be like, oh, we get to help the poor. And it gives them this feel-good stuff that, feeling good and doing good are two different things. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, whether they're college-age students or lawmakers, because there's a lot of things done with good intentions, but you have to actually look at the outcome. What's the actual outcome going to be compared to what your intent was behind a law or a group like this coming into town? Yeah, it's very interesting that they picked Cape Girardeau. Now, I do know that, the UN with Agenda
2030.
Well, it used to be Agenda 2021.
Right.
And that they were focusing a lot on waterways. Now, something about Cape Girardeau must have caught their eye, because it's right on the Mississippi River. So they must have went, oh, well, waterway. So the environmental aspect, among some other things, something there has caught their attention, which I'm sorry for you that you live in a town that caught the attention of not only the WEF, but of the UN. That's just, those are two bedfellows that should be pushed off the bed. They shouldn't be allowed to sleep in the same bed, let alone the same planet. How is educating others going? Are people being receptive to your message about how dangerous this really is?
Well, it's slow. It's
I bet.
slow going. I will tell you, it's amazing the number of people that just are not familiar with what's going on, and I think it's indicative of our society as a whole. Quite honestly, John, people have, they've grown complacent, they've fallen asleep, they haven't been engaged, and that is why we are where we are as a society right now, our world as we know it. And even with MRCTI, no one really even was familiar with that. It just so happened that I was taking in the city council meeting, and the mayor at the time, the same gentleman who helped this young man get the Global Shapers chapter started here in Cape, he mentioned that he had been on a phone call with some of the others about MRCTI, and everything was going well. And no one on the city council stopped to raise their hand or say, hey, wait a minute, what are you talking about? What is this, right? So that immediately piqued my interest, and I started doing some research on it. Discovered right on their website, it has COP27 on there. I don't know if, COP26 at the time. Now it has 27. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that, John, and what's going on with COP27. Very big deal. And then, it shows the United Nations on there. It shows Ducks Unlimited as a sponsor on there. It shows a lot of our politicians involved with this, not to mention Roy Blunt, Nancy Pelosi, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, so they're all in bed together, all the Republicans and the Democrats on this deal. And I was totally blown away. And so I immediately went to Stacey Kinder, who was running against Bob Fox at the time for mayor. And I gave her this information. I'd never met her before, but we sat down and talked for a couple of hours. And when we were getting ready to leave, I asked her what she thought about MRCTI, because I was trying to get a handle on what kind of person was, vying for the title of mayor in Cape Girardeau. And she said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not familiar with it." And I said, "But you were there. You were there at the city council meeting." And she says, "I guess I don't know anything about it." Well, I gave her the information. I said, "Please, I'll give you some time to research. I know you're campaigning, but please, do some research on that. And I'm going to get back with you on this because I want to know where you stand on it." And I gave her about a month to check back in with her. And she totally was disinterested, had no interest in it at all, no interest in pursuing it. By that time, we were just maybe a month and a half out from the election, and I knew we were in trouble then. She had no interest in it. He was involved in it. And so that's when I decided to jump in as a writing candidate and at least use that platform to try to educate people about it. And people are starting to wake up, but John, as I said, it's slow going. This very small group of us held a big meeting for the agricultural community and some farmers at the end of October. And we had about 100 people there for that. And we did about an hour and a half presentation on the World Economic Forum and how it's infiltrating the agricultural community, the ESGs, as you mentioned, how that's infiltrating, the ag suppliers, the banking industry, how that's going to affect them, social credit scores, all of that. And encourage them to reach out to their representatives and senators and so on and make their voices known, check with their ag suppliers, find out, if they're involved in the ESG. So we gave them some action steps to take, all the contact information. Anybody and everybody that will listen to me, I will talk to them about it. I will let them know what's going on here. But it's a really big issue, and our current mayor absolutely, she just does not see the bigger picture. I've been meeting with my council person and trying to get him invested in this and help him to understand. And he just tells me, "Look, I just worry about if the public's safe and if the roads are good." And I said, "Well, I'm concerned about that too, but I also see a much bigger picture than what's here locally. And there is a world going on outside of Cape Girardeau, and it is infiltrating our way of life as we speak. And you aren't even aware of that because you don't have your finger on the pulse of what's happening." And I provided him, along with every council person, information about not just MRCTI, but the World Economic Forum and so on, just trying to get them engaged, trying to get them invested in what's going on with our city. And people think I am losing my mind. I went on Fawn Riggins' show. I don't know if you've heard of her or not, but she's a very popular radio host here in the area. And she said, "Well, I believe in freedom of speech, and I just don't see, basically I don't see anything wrong with sitting down and having a conversation with these people." And I'm like, that's like saying you don't mind having a conversation with the devil, because really that's what it is. And That turned into more of a debate than it did me being able to put out information about what's going on and what the World Economic Forum is. And so, long story short, it's slow go for sure.
Well, yeah, I know you've got a tough job ahead of you, Michelle, I mean, again, Tom Martz kind of lined us up, and I'm really happy he did because this is the type of information again, from you can tell by the name of the podcast, I focus on Missouri issues, and this is now a Missouri issue because they're in the they're in Cape Girardeau, and it's again because I feel for you. You're saying you're telling people this, and you just kind of roll your eyes like, oh, here they go again, crazy conspiracy theorists. But it's almost like they've been promised something, and they just will not go against whatever whoever told them. Now, it sounds like the even bigger battle for you will be. It would be a tough row to hoe, but start getting different people elected in that city council. If I'm sorry, but if an elected, if I go to my city council and they say the only two things I'm worried about really is the public safety and if the roads are good, what about the Constitution of the state that you swear an oath to, or the Constitution, mind you, at all, that you swear an oath to when you take this public office? Does that mean nothing to you? Because the public safety, if you let these idiots in, well, they're not idiots, they're smart people, but you know what I'm saying. You let these people in and you let them have their way. I mean, how safe are you really if they're able to foment their agenda? Nobody's safe. Your rights are not safe. Excuse me. Your property is not safe. Every natural right that you have is not safe with these jackbooted thugs walking around. And it's astonishing, but it's not surprising after. It doesn't matter what topic I get involved in sometimes and I'm talking to people. It's the sad part is it's like until it's right in their face, beating on their door, they don't want to hear it. And I'm glad you're doing what you do, Michelle, but it's like we've got to get to where we're more proactive rather than reactive, and that's why with like the Missouri Freedom Initiative, the group this organization I work with, we get proactive in the legislature to get things done, whether it's gun freedom laws, gold and silver here in the state of Missouri as currency, things like that. I mean, I'm happy to help where I can, and I'm happy to help you spread the word about this because, again, I think if the legislators or city aldermen or mayors aren't going to listen, the job is find somebody to put in office who will, and who will actually be there to do what government is supposed to do, which is to protect your natural rights and to push back against organizations who would just be happy to take everything you have and leave you with nothing and literally control the entire population of the planet if it so pleases them.
Yes, I agree. And that is why I'm going to be running for city council, not as a write-in candidate this time, but in the meantime, I'm doing everything I can to put the word out about what's happening. And, to your point, and I've said it as well to the current mayor, there has to be some sort of a payoff in order to be willing to do this. What is it that we're getting out of it, or what are you giving to them? Like, there is nothing, it goes both ways. And so there has to be something going on here. Now, this young man that came to establish the Global Shapers, he told her, I know for sure, I'm not sure who else he may have told this, that he wanted to start a charity here in Cape Girardeau, and that's why he wanted to know where the most impoverished areas were. Now, you and I both know, and you touched on it as well, there's a reason behind that. And it's not to help those people, it's to brainwash those people. And I mean, you see the mass population at this point are not even familiar with what's happening. Can you imagine, in those areas, how much less probably knowledgeable they are about these things? And so they know exactly how to work it. We'll do this for you if you do this for us, and they'll infiltrate those parts of our city. And so it's all well thought out, well planned. It's not innocent, and that's what I tried to tell the mayor. There is nothing that they do, the World Economic Forum, that is for the good of mankind. Everything that they're doing is well planned. They have been working on this for decades, and they've been very patient, and they have infiltrated a lot of different areas. And Cape Girardeau is no exception. There is no innocent part about this, and so I decided to run for city council. And yes, we're working very hard in Cape Girardeau to put good people in office, patriots, people who stand for the Constitution and understand what the proper role of our government is. That's the kind of people that we're looking for to start filling these positions, and to try to take back our city. It starts at the local level, right? Change starts at the local level, and so that's what we're doing, one person at a time. But I will tell you, as recent as probably 3 weeks ago, I had someone in the city tell me that it was a black eye on me because, everyone really likes me. Everyone really likes you, Michelle, but, you're part of that group that, that is really passionate about certain things, that are happening in the country, and a little bit more of a conspiratorial type group. And I said, well, tell me what's conspiratorial about a love for my country and a love for freedoms and our liberties and a love for our Constitution, and a willingness to fight and to stand for that. Our founding fathers gave everything for us to have a republic, a constitutional republic. And we are just throwing it right out the window. Every day, we're losing something because we, the people, are just relinquishing our power to them. And we've got to own it. We've got to push back. And so, I take some heat for that. I've applied for advisory boards here in Cape. And, I know that in one of the meetings, someone said, oh, well, she's that constitutionalist, like that's such a bad thing, right? And if that's the worst they can say about me, then I'll take it, because I take that as a compliment. And I love the fact that people understand that that's where I stand, and that's where I'll remain standing. So.
Well, I've got a quick question here. Do you have a website or anything that you've got for information, so I can get that out? Do you have any kind of site or any kind of even social media page or anything I can direct people to?
Yeah, well, I actually have. So we're working on the website.
Okay.
But I have an email. If anyone is interested, I have tons of resource links and information that I'm happy to send them. That will give them a very basic and foundational understanding of what we're talking about in all of these aspects. And I'm happy to send them whatever they need. And I'm happy to talk with anyone who wants to ask questions, because as you know, probably, John, this goes so deep and wide. And the World Economic Forum has so many tentacles that even an hour conversation can't can't adequately cover what's going on with the World Economic Forum. So, but I'm happy to give you that address if you would like, and they can email me and ask for whatever it is that they need.
Absolutely. If you'll give me that now, and I will put it in the description of the video, so anybody that watches can get that and email you for any information. That'd be great.
Okay, so it's Save Ag, so like agriculture, only it's abbreviated. Save Ag at protonmail.me. And that email address was established after we spoke with the farmers and the agricultural community, because we are a big agricultural community here in Southeast Missouri. And, you know, in light of the fact that Sri Lanka is starving because of the World Economic Forum agenda being implemented there, Holland is pushing back at this point. I know they're still in the battle. They're not as in bad a shape as Sri Lanka is. But we are trying to be proactive rather than reactive and try to get ahead of this. So the Missouri people are not starving to death, you know. And so that's why we decided to focus immediately on the agricultural side of this and the agricultural side of the agenda to try to get ahead of that and make sure that everyone working in the industry understands what's coming and what's coming down the pike, or what could be, and they're prepared for it. So,
You know what makes me happy? The last two guests that I've had, you this week and Charles Lewis last week, because I was the only one I knew with a Proton Mail email address. You make me so happy. This three Liberty lovers now that I know. Proton Mail is awesome. I'm not getting paid for an ad, people. Just calm down. I'm just saying it's encrypted well, and they're not biased on who they encrypt for. They'll encrypt for everybody. So it's an amazing email address or email service. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that. It's just like, ooh, another one, Proton Mail. Awesome. And I did put the email address in the chat, and I will also put it in the description, the video description when we're done here. So, good Lord, Michelle, there's so much that we could dig into on this.
I know.
Now,
and if I could, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I was just going to say, if I could, just really quickly, just a few of their talking points, the World Economic Forum talking points. And you mentioned one earlier, you will own nothing and be happy. And so one of their primary goals is to make sure that no one owns anything and that they control us in every possible way. So services will be how we are taken care of or managed as a population, you know, and we won't own homes and we won't own cars. We'll depend on other ways to take care of ourselves. They also are pushing 3D printed meat. Okay, so part of their agenda is that they eliminate meat from our diet, and this says this specifically on the World Economic Forum website, WEF, so worldeconomicforum.org. Look it up, or maybe .com. It's one or the other. But they talk about, it being a treat. And so, that goes along with them wanting to eliminate animals. Now they're coming out and they're saying that animals are going to need to be done away with because of their carbon footprint. And they're, as Yuval Harari would say, who is Klaus Schwab's right-hand man, we're all useless eaters and we're hackable humans. So we're just taking up space. Well, now they're talking about the pets being that way themselves. And so that's just a few of the things, that they specifically mention, and that's their goal is to eliminate any sense of individuality or independence and just rely on them. That's all they want. eating bugs, for protein instead of the meat. They really think that that's going to be, sustainable. All in the name of climate change, by the way. Doing better things for the environment, as they would like to say. And all the while, we have John Kerry at COP27 declaring that the United States stands prepared to pay it's either billions or trillions of dollars in reparations, for our carbon footprint and, how awful we've been. And mind you, he flew, probably a private jet there to speak at the conference. So it's so hypocritical. It's disgusting. And it's so infuriating to me, that there are countries being destroyed and, that they push all of this electric stuff and they're wanting everyone to go electric and it's just disgusting. Like you said, there's so much to it. It's hard to nail down one specific thing and really talk about it because there's so much to their agenda. So, but I just wanted to put a couple of things out there for people to understand more about the crux of what they think, even though I don't think they really believe this because they don't plan to live that way. They just want us peons to live that way. So,
Yeah, it must be a hell of a power trip to be on to act this way. I mean, what kind of arrogant, maniacal type personality do you have to have in order to strive to control the world's population? And I know people hear that and they're like, well, now easy. If you literally want to tell people and you try to control where they live, what kind of house they can have, what kind of car they can have, what kind of food they can eat, what else? There's no, oh, well, they're just trying to help the environment. That's naive and stupid. If you're, if you came to me, Michelle, and said, you can't go to the grocery store anymore and buy beef because I said it's bad for the environment. Well, I'm going to flick you in the eyelid and go, excuse me, who are you? And B, I'm going to go, now why on God's green earth would this woman demand that I don't go to the store and buy ground beef anymore? There has to be, A, either she's crazy or B, something is afoot here. And again, the problem, it's not just this country, it's the world. Until it's hitting people right in the face, it's a delayed reaction, and then by the time they react, it's too late. Now, how many things have happened in the last 20 years? You have 9/11, you get the Patriot Act, mass surveillance state. Then we get COVID and the lockdowns and everything else and destruction of the economy and the ruination of businesses. And then you get this coming in right behind it, and it's like, okay, after a while, it's no longer just a consequence. It's not coincidental. Something is going on. But
yes,
a lot of times it's spaced out enough where people forget about the one thing, and then you drop something else in on them, and they freak out and they scurry around like roaches when the lights come on. And then people just have fallen into line. It was so heartbreaking for me to see businesses cave during COVID instead of, it didn't matter if it's Cape Girardeau or Owensville or wherever, that all the businesses in a town didn't say, yeah, you're not shutting us down. You don't have enough police and you don't have enough health department people to shut us down, so we're staying open at max capacity. If people choose to come in, they will. But they didn't. They fell
right
into line. And now, same way with the Patriot Act, COVID. Now this nonsense, people it sounds so like, it sounds like something that a villain out of a movie would do. And people are like, well, we're based it on the false premise that because we live in the United States, it couldn't happen here. Well, we have the mass surveillance state, and we had lockdowns and shutdowns and literally trying to put people in jail for opening their business. So, yes, even in the United States, it can happen. It has happened. It will continue to happen unless people snap out of their comas and come to the realization that there are people in this world who want to control every single facet of your life, whether you like it or not. And it's time to take a stand.
I agree. You know, you talk about a supervillain. Have you ever seen and heard Klaus Schwab?
Oh, I like to keep what food I ingest down, so no, I try not to listen to the man.
Well, he looks and sounds like a supervillain. He truly does. But, you know, another aspect of the World Economic Forum, and I kind of touched on it a little bit, is how they are infiltrating like the banking system. But what a lot of people also need to know is they have infiltrated a lot of retirement systems as well within the state. And so you have like BlackRock, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
who owns trillions and trillions of dollars in assets. You also have like Vanguard as well. But BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is actually on the board of directors for the board of trustees. I'm sorry, for the World Economic Forum. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so he's over BlackRock. He's on the board of directors, and yet he is handling people's retirement in probably just about every state, which a lot of that's starting to come to a halt because there are attorneys general who are starting to wake up and understand what's going on. But the ESG is being implemented into these places like like Edward Jones, you know, like investment companies. And so that's also affecting your retirement and your investments because now the pressure's on for these investment firms to look at who has signed on for this global climate agenda and who is willing to work within this carbon footprint parameter that's been laid out for them. And if they have, then it's okay to go ahead and invest money in those companies. If not, then the advisors are advised to go with a company that has been willing to do that. And so a lot of people don't realize that it is already affecting their retirement. Also, you know, your credit card statements, they're being monitored. So say I decide I want to go out and I want to buy, you know, a case of beer, or I want to go buy 15 trees at Lowe's or whatever. They're gonna look at your credit card statement, these credit card companies, because a lot of them are in on this as well, and they're gonna say, oh, well, you know, your footprint's too big this month because you went out and you traveled 1,500 miles, and so you spent all of this gas, and you shouldn't have been doing that. So that's going to ding your social credit score because you did this. So now, you know, you can't borrow as much money as you could have before, or we're just going to freeze your account because you what you did was not good for the environment. And so now all of this is starting to trickle down as well. You also have like Mark Benioff, who is over Salesforce. I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but that has infiltrated a lot of businesses, insurance industry, even the agricultural community. And he is also on the board of trustees. And so once again, even in those circles, you're seeing the ESGs start to kind of trickle down. Even in the banking industries, you're seeing it start to trickle down, and people not being able to borrow money because of that. Even on the river, Mississippi River, you're seeing it with some of the barge companies as well. And so this has infiltrated I know I keep saying this, but I really want people to understand this. There is no part of our lives that is not already being touched by this. And the bad part is it's going to be too late by the time most people wake up and they're looking at their investment statements or whatever, aside from the fact that Joe Biden is intentionally collapsing our economy because he's being directed to do so. But your investments, your retirement, and so on is also being affected, and you have no say in that other than to pull your money out and buy gold, which has an intrinsic value, and then you won't ever have to worry about your money not ever being worth nothing, gold and silver. So that's the control that people have. Start using cash, start using, bartering gold and silver and that sort of thing. And start looking at your banks. Look at who you're banking with. Call them, ask them. Are you involved with ESGs? Because I guarantee you there are banks within the state of Missouri that are already working on this. I just spoke to a gentleman 2 weeks ago who is very deeply involved with a bank in his city. He's not from Cape Girardeau. And he said that he had just recently learned that there were some people that tried to borrow money and they were not allowed to borrow it due to the fact that they were, socially, they were not acceptable in what they were doing. And he didn't understand at the time what it was all about, but it was the ESG score that was holding them back. So this is happening. And people are not going to realize it until, like you say, until, it knocks on their door. They're not going to see that. When they go to borrow that money and their expenses or their accounts are looked at, and the bank sees that they spend it on things that, were not acceptable and they're not approved, that's when people are going to realize it, and that's when it's going to be too late. So that's why it's so important to get this info out so people can be proactive rather than reactive.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's why, again, just to reiterate for anybody who hasn't heard yet, Senator Eigel has introduced a bill here in the state of Missouri, SB 100, that makes gold and silver legal tender here in our state, which means, and also it removes the state capital gains tax from when you buy or sell gold and silver. So all these things, Missouri, we're working on some positive things. We want to get the gold and silver bill through this session on the governor's desk, have it signed into law, because not only we're trying to hedge against inflation, but of course also against digital currency. So you'll have something tangible there. And if, different stores and restaurants, whatever, want to take gold and silver as payment, basically kind of creating an alternative economy in the state. And this is
a parallel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so with that lends a little more credence to our argument when we're not just about inflation, the way government, steals from you and then spends it on stupid things like laundering money in Ukraine or whatever. Also, the WEF and the things that they're trying to push, you're going to have a hedge against maniacal, supervillains from all over the world trying to force you into a certain way of life, which is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to force you into what they deem an acceptable, lifestyle, which means they get to eat all the great stuff and you get to eat garbage, and you'll be sick all the time and too weak to fight back because you're not eating anything of sustenance. So I don't know if you ever heard this, Michelle, but years ago, this is 10 plus years ago, easy. Someone in the World Health Organization made a comment that nutrients were toxins. And I said that right. Nutrients are toxins. It was their way of trying to get multivitamins and stuff off the shelves, which, if these folks have their way, that's exactly what will happen. Because if you have your vitamins and minerals and your proteins and everything else, then your body is strong and you're able to fight. But if all that's gone and all you have is what they give you, they're not going to give you the stuff that keeps your body strong, healthy, able to fight. They want you mentally and physically beaten into submission so that you will live the way they intend for you to live. And there's nothing natural about that. It's only pure unadulterated evil to the core.
Yeah.
And it's just again, with anything else, everything in the liberty movement, like Ron Paul said, Ron Paul always says that liberty is a new idea. Tyranny is an old idea. It's been tried and tried and tried again. It's happened over and over. Freedom is the beginning. We started as free people, and then tyranny has just beaten, through the years and through the centuries. People have been beaten down by tyranny, but freedom is the greatest and most noble thing that there is. It's always seems to be some weird new idea, but honestly, when you look at natural rights, before the Constitution, just natural rights, freedom was established first. And then these corrupt individuals get in places of power and start screwing everything up and convincing, this is the worst part, convincing people, oh, you don't want to be that free, because if you're that free, there's no one there to prop you up. Let us prop you up. Let us create these programs and everything, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. Well, you're talking about taken care of as a healthy human being who's happy and able to thrive, or are you talking about taken care of like mafia style taken care of? I mean, which taken care of are we talking about here?
Well, our liberties come from God. So we're born with liberty. And like you said, the powers that be want us to believe that we have to have them to make it. That's why they love having, 50% of the population on some sort of a public assistance, because then they need them. And they want to be our God. Okay, they want to take the place of our God. And, it makes me think about Bill Gates when you're talking about, beating us down and us being not having any nutrients and vitamins in our system and just wearing us down and making us ill. Well, Bill Gates, who is very closely intertwined with the World Economic Forum, he wants to block the sun. Well, you know why that is.
Yeah.
The same reason they wanted to lock us up during COVID, because you can't get any vitamin D and you can't, feel the healing effects of the sun. And by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, you probably do, but Bill Gates is the largest farmland owner in the United States. So he owns more farmland than any person in the United States.
Yeah, I did know that. It's pretty frightening that, and here's the thing. Bill Gates wants to fight viruses, but he made an operating system that's full of viruses. So why would you listen to that guy in the first place, right?
Right. Who's not a doctor, but thinks he wants to play a doctor, And I wanted to say something, too. You mentioned about Bill introducing, I forget what number you said that.
SB 100.
Or SB, I'm sorry, Senate Bill. Yes, 100, about the goals. Very interestingly, my husband and Bill had talked about that earlier this year, because Jason and I, my husband, we were very concerned about the currency and the collapse of the dollar and so on and so forth. And so he was able to have a conversation with Bill about that earlier this year. And so we're glad to know that Bill did go ahead and put something out there for that. And I know Bill, he is all about, I keep saying Bill, I'm sorry, Senator Eigel is all about making us more independent and getting the World Economic Forum out of Missouri and keeping them out of Missouri. And so he is a freedom fighter as well, and he is an awesome guy. And we're so excited, that he is here in Missouri, and maybe hopefully one day he'll be the governor of Missouri. We'd love to see that.
Absolutely would love to see that, because the other choices, like, I'm not keen on Kehoe. I think he's a statist. I think everybody else that'll be running for governor will be more statist, and I want someone who's just a little bit more liberty minded. And again, every stinking year, which I believe it's Senate Bill 8, is the one to remove personal property tax. Every year he files that bill. I know he's inching closer and closer to the finish line with that bill. And a friend of mine, because I sent him a link about appealing your personal property tax hikes this year, because apparently a lot of county collectors didn't send out a letter or sent it out way too late to explain how much your personal property taxes were going to climb up. So there's a way to appeal that and get it knocked down to last year's price and not this year's price. And I told him, I said, hey, do me a favor. Tell everybody that you know that's ticked off about their personal property tax bill to call when the legislative session starts next month. Call your senators and say, I want that SB 8. We definitely want the gold and silver to get through, but we also want to see SB 8 hit the finish line and get rid of personal property tax in Missouri, because we're tired of paying rent to our government to own a car and boats and livestock and any other thing under the sun. So, yeah, he's done some great things. He someone that I know said that he's actually gotten better as time's gone on that he served up in Jefferson City, which is a rare phenomenon, because most of the time they're either stagnant or they get worse. It's like the power corrupts them a little bit, but we do have a handful, like Mike Moon is another one, just a phenomenal person. We do have some real freedom fighters in Jefferson City, but we'll also have to work on getting a lot more of them elected in the coming years. So, Michelle, is there anything you'd like to close with? Because we went over a little over an hour, but is there anything else you'd like to discuss or close with before we end the show?
I would just like to tell everyone, feel free to reach out to me, and you can actually, I don't use Google. Okay, so when I say this, I don't literally mean Google me, but you can search my name, and you can find the phone number for my agency in Cape Girardeau. If you want to reach out by phone, please call me. I'm happy to talk with you about any part of the subject we covered. Everything that you and I talked about barely scratches the surface of what's going on. But I would love to talk to anyone who would like to learn more. Again, my email address, saveag@protonmail.me. And so I have tons of stuff that I can send out as well if you'd rather do it by email. But please share this and talk with your neighbors, talk with your friends, people you go to church with and let them know. Go to the World Economic Forum's website. It is weforum.org. And look that up and learn more about these people who are controlling a lot of things that are happening in our world. If we don't stand up against it, they're going to want to load us up on some cars and take us somewhere. So we have got to be proactive rather than reactive. So thank you for giving me a voice and let me talk a little bit about it.
Well, it is my pleasure, Michelle. And also, if you don't mind, I'm going to pass your email address on to my friend Sam Britton, because I would just about guarantee he does another show here locally, but he reaches a rather wide audience as well here in the state and across the country. And maybe I can link you guys up and you could come on his show as well, because I know he'd probably love to have you on and give you another platform to speak from, if you're okay with that.
Sure. I'd love that. And it looks like probably the first of next year sometime, hopefully. I'm as it stands right now, it's a tentative plan, but I'll be going to the Capitol and speaking with some folks up there about the World Economic Forum as well, and helping educate some of the people that are in office up there. And I know that Senator Eigel is also a very strong supporter of what I've got going on here. And so I know he's going to be working on some things. We are working on some things together as well. And so that's going to be very helpful in getting the word out too. So it's a slow drip, as you would say. But you know what? God is making a way, and he's making a path, and more people are finding out. And so I do believe that that there's hope in this. So I don't want anyone to give up. We need everyone in the fight. We need everyone standing and educating for sure.
Absolutely. And I'll say this too, Michelle. Maybe at some point, I know it'd be a heck of a drive, but maybe at some point, if you'd be interested in it, because we're going to start having some meetings in my local area every so often to discuss topics like this, and I'll try to give you good advance. But if you'd be willing to make the drive, I'd love to have you up here to speak on what you know about the WEF and inform some of the local people here on what we have to look out for and how to fight this.
Sure.
But I'll get in contact because I'm looking at probably March. We just had one here last weekend, so there's some other meetings that are going to be happening. So I'm looking at maybe March having another one. And if you are available, because I'd probably do it on a Saturday or Sunday, one of the two, but have you up and allow you to speak on this because I think some local folks here would be very interested in what you'd have to say.
Sure. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Just look out and let me know what you have in mind.
Well, Michelle, again, I appreciate so much you coming on with me this evening. I've enjoyed. I shouldn't say I've enjoyed our conversation because it's a disgusting topic, but I've enjoyed our discussion and our conversation. And again, I'm very pleased that you were willing to come on and talk about this evening. So best of luck to you. I will keep pushing the word here. As things, and I'll just to extend this to you as well, as you see things progress either in a good way or a bad way, if you ever want to come back on and talk about what's going on, you can text me or call me, leave me a voicemail, and I'll have you back on, and we can kind of keep up on the progress that you're making down there in the Cape Girardeau area.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll be going back before the city council again. I'm working on a resolution, but I did address them a few weeks back from a constitutional standpoint and called them out for breaking their oath of office. And so I'm going to be going back, and it's probably going to be a little more hard hitting this time. So we'll keep chiseling away and pounding at that door. So I'll keep you abreast of what's happening, and I look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Well, Michelle, you have a great weekend. Again, best of luck to you. I really appreciate the effort you're putting in and the fight you're putting up. And I really hope that you can make some headway here. And I think we got some folks here that will definitely back you up. And I know that some folks around here speak out on it, but we want to educate more people and get more people in the fight. So again, best of luck. Have a great weekend. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, John. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. Good conversation again. Great talk. I mean, it sucks for a topic, but it has to be talked about, right? We have to discuss this stuff, and it is what it is. And let me end with this because my son and I had an interesting conversation the other day. I posted this on Twitter, but I just want to bring it up again. because we were talking about, well, like the WEF and things of that nature. And he said, during the Great Depression, people were financially strapped. A lot of people got hurt, but the family dynamic was strong. And he said at that point, the 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 egomaniacs, the evildoers, the ones who want to control everything, knew right then and there that was the next target, the family dynamic. And I was like, whoa. Didn't think about it that way. That's a good point. And we see the attacks on the family. We see it. Family, finances, the environment, property, everything natural about this world as it was created and laid out under attack by a lot of evil folks. But folks like Michelle are out there spreading the word, and it's just, hope and pray that people's ears open up and their eyes open up and they see what is coming and who is coming and can armor themselves to fight back. And it's our job to talk about it, spread the word, and do our part to make Missouri the freest state in the nation, free of WEF jackwagons. This is radio. This goes out of radio, so I gotta behave. But anyway, again, thanks so much everybody that came in and joined in the discussion, joined the live chat. Was in the live chat tonight. Appreciate all of you. To those of you who download or listen on the radio, thank you so much as well. Next week I will have on Representative Sander with me, and we're going to talk about chiseling away at government. And I've got to get in contact with him very soon and start working on a bill again on occupational licensing. I got to do a little more research, but I'm going to start working on, people like barbers and people that cut hair and things of that nature, because 1,800 hours of, practice time or whatever, $12,000 is a little ridiculous. So I'm going to start working with him on that. And, go from there. But we got to start somewhere. And that's all there is to it. I'm sitting here trying to text Michelle back as I'm talking, and it's not working out. But, again, appreciate each and every one of you. Oh, also, by the way, the 30th, I have my a big Christmas party to go to. So on December 30th, the last Friday of the month, I'm supposed to have Sam and Trish on. I'm going to talk to them. I may have to do it either earlier that day or just take that Friday off and then move them back a couple weeks. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I may just record it, live stream, and everybody can watch later that that wasn't able to join us in the morning. But yeah, I definitely have to do that as well, because I think the party starts at like 6 o'clock and we start this show at 6:30. So I'm gonna have to do something a little different. I'm trying not to take any weeks off right now because the momentum of this program is building, because of folks like you and many others. And I just don't want to take any time off right now because it's important to keep this momentum going. It's important to keep building this podcast and reaching a wider audience. So there's that. And again, everybody, thanks so much for joining me for this edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Also, make sure you check out molibertyradio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Sam and Trish Britton, Off the Cuff Radio. Don't forget to check out keyradio.live, our other radio station. And check out mofree.org. That's the Missouri Freedom Initiative's website. And don't forget about our sponsor, slaphappybeverage.com. Be sure to check them out. All those links will be in the description, along with Michelle's email address, so that any of you who want that information can get in contact with her and she can share away. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you all next Friday right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, folks, thanks for joining me, everybody. Great to have you all on the live stream with me, as always, and it's been a busy week. It's going to be really crazy the next 2 weeks because we got Christmas coming up next weekend, New Year's Eve the weekend after. So, I know it's going to be hectic, and I don't, if you all can't make it next Friday, because you got Christmas stuff going on, believe me, I completely understand. It's that time of year. You get together with your family and your friends. I have no problema with that, but I will be here with Representative Sander. And so, yeah, it's going to be awesome. So, thanks to BH, John Grady, Gary Ride, Warrior Class 3. Let's see, who else do we have? Ganai, Caleb, Patrick, Casey Rich, and who's the last one? Somebody just... And Wilderness Gal. Thanks to all of you for joining with me tonight. And, appreciate all of you. So, anyway, we'll see you all next Friday. Well, actually, I'll see you on the live stream tomorrow night. And then I told... oh, good Lord, I'm just smacking my mic around here. I told, this stupid thing. I told Patrick that I will be going to Travis's meeting for the first time this Sunday. So I will be there as well. I think I'm going to have some speaking time, which makes me nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, but I have to do it. In order to spread the word, I have to get up there and talk, even though it gives me the absolute heebie-jeebies talking in front of a bunch of people that I don't know. But anyway, all right, folks. Great to see you as always.